Hello everyone. In this video, I will talk about how to make repairs in mechanical systems. Specifically, what you need to do first when a drone comes in after a crash, and what procedures to follow if you have parts that cannot be repaired. First of all, after a drone comes to you in the crash stage, we will simulate that it has had an accident. After the drone comes to you in the crash stage, you need to first visually inspect the mechanical parts. You should check which part has a malfunction. Right now, at the point where we have separated the arms, as you can see on this arm, there is a break which has caused wear and tear on the part. You need to check which part has a malfunction. Right now, at the point where we have separated the arms, as you can see on this arm, there is a break which has caused wear and tear on the part. If we examine the other arms, we don't see anything on the back of this arm, or we don't see anything on this arm either. If we examine the other arms, we don't see anything on the back of this arm, or we don't see anything on this arm either. We haven't detected any malfunctions on this arm, or we don't see anything on this arm. We didn't detect any malfunctions on this arm either. After checking the arms, we will examine the parts connecting to the drone's body. Upon manual inspection, I found no rigidity or damage. Visual inspection also showed no malfunctions, and all screws were secure without play or looseness. At the same time, when I visually inspected, I didn't see any malfunctions. I found that there was no play or looseness in any of the screws. The same goes for the other arms. Next, we have the motor mounts. In this model of the drone, the motor mounts are manufactured in close proximity to the body, or rather, attached to the arms. As a result of this, when I examined the arms, I also checked the motor mounts on this drone. When I checked the landing gear, I noticed that there was an imbalance in the drone's landing gear. As a result of this imbalance, there is a break in the drone's landing gear here. As you can see, due to this break, our drone cannot maintain its balance, and the screws here have also lost their effectiveness and functionality. As you can see, due to this break, our drone cannot maintain its balance, and the screws here have also lost their effectiveness and functionality. Now, first of all, the part you see here is a piece that has come out of plastic injection, and the screws here have also lost their effectiveness and functionality. Now, first of all, the part you see here is a piece that has come out of plastic injection. The break in this part may increase due to the vibrations from our motor during operation. Therefore, while our drone is in flight, the efficiency of this motor, the efficiency will drop at best. In the worst case, this part could break off and be thrown out of place, hitting the motor. And since the motor is connected with cables, it could come loose because of that effect. If it doesn't come loose, it could still cause our drone to crash, leading to a more serious accident. The same goes for the landing gear. If it doesn't come loose, we could cause our drone to crash and lead to a more serious accident. Likewise, the landing gear. The landing gear here has broken due to the drone making a hard landing and has now lost its functionality. Likewise, the landing gear. The landing gear here has broken due to the drone making a hard landing and has now lost its functionality. I can't move the leg here, but since the leg here has lost its functionality, it moves like this. It could probably rotate like this if it gets hit by the wind. Even if it doesn't rotate, if it makes a hard landing, it will remain unbalanced like this. The foot can probably turn like this when the wind blows. Even if it doesn't rotate, if it makes a hard landing, it will remain unbalanced like this. As a result, if this imbalance increases, it will likely cause damage to the motors and the electronic components in the body of the drone due to this leg. Now, especially if there is a plastic injection material involved, these need to be replaced. The spare parts will be provided or sent to you by the manufacturer. However, for example, in our drone system that you see here, the protective dome on top has been damaged due to crash and breakage sources. Then the equipment you see here. Oh God, you asked about the damage. Since this is a 3D printed part, if you need to make an urgent fix, and if you need to intervene immediately in a drone system designed for reconnaissance and observation, you can temporarily join these 3D printed parts together with a hot soldering iron. But this part definitely needs to be reproduced and printed again using 3D printer technology to be put back in its original place. For example, let's examine the landing gear after the accident. In the landing gear, the pads, there is some wear and tear, and these pads have actually lost their effectiveness. However, we see that it is intact in the areas where the cow demolitions are located. You also need to confirm this by checking its screws. All the electronic components of this drone have been disassembled because it has been determined that the error is caused by the electronic components. The motor you see here, while I'm doing my mechanical check, I can also see that the motor holders you see here are in place and intact. In this drone, About 90% of it is made of carbon fiber, but I have 3D printed connection equipment. These connection components, especially the motor mounts or the parts where the arms connect to the body, are reinforced with carbon fiber. Therefore, these are probably the strongest parts of the drone. As a result, my 3D printed parts haven't been damaged either. That's why these areas are probably the strongest parts of this drone. Therefore, my 3D printed parts haven't been damaged. The drone you see here has also experienced some play in the arms at the front after the crash. This play has actually caused us some damage. There has been a break in the arms around here. Due to the need for an emergency flight, this arm was secured with silicone and the flight was carried out. However, afterwards, since the necessity for flight passed, these drones were sent for repair. As you can see here, first we check our motors. We're checking the rotations. Is there any mechanical malfunction? Remember, if you find it difficult to turn the motors by hand and can't make that rotation, there is probably a mechanical or electronic fault with your motor. Then I'm opening the inside of my drone. There is no mechanical issue with the top cover of my drone, so the part that will protect the electronic components looks intact. The reason for the arm spinning, I'm testing to see if it's due to the breakage of the part you see here. If this part was securely in place, my arms wouldn't be rotating or moving. This is a 3D printer part, and since it's multifunctional, it definitely needs to be replaced rather than repaired. If this part was securely in place, my arms wouldn't be rotating or moving. This is a 3D printer part, and since it is multifunctional, it definitely needs to be replaced rather than repaired. Instead of repairing it, this could also be a fault due to its design. You definitely need to replace this instead of repairing it. Especially when it comes to replacement or repair, you need to pay attention to this. Cost is very important. If it's not a very costly structure for you, you definitely need to replace it and use a new one. Cost is very important. If it's not a very costly structure for you, you definitely need to replace it and use a new one. 3D printer parts or plastic parts are not structures that require a long production process or are very costly. As a result, you won't encounter any issues. Because of this, you can replace them without encountering any issues. After we separate our inch tools from the body, we can say that there is no mechanical malfunction. Let's take a look at different body structures in drone systems. It's very difficult for a body made of carbon fiber to break or get damaged like this. Especially if you want to perform high flights and have a longer airtime, you shouldn't experience any malfunctions. However, the part we have here has deformed due to the burning of an electronic component, as you can see here, due to contact. Especially, if you want to perform high flights and have a longer airtime, you shouldn't experience any malfunctions. However, the part we have here has deformed due to the burning of an electronic component, as you can see here, due to contact. As you can see, our carbon fiber is worn out and is coming off. The exact reason for this is that our carbon fiber is conductive. It's likely that our electronic device has burned and made contact with the carbon fiber, which is why this area has burned. And this area, there is a difference in color between this area and that area. What we need to do here is to replace this body. If it's a very important part and one that affects the aesthetic appearance from the outside, but if it's a part that remains on the inside, you can also actively use it by replacing the electronic parts. Why? Because the production and cost of these carbon fiber parts are quite high. In this particular segment of my video presentation, I am aiming to delve into the process of identifying and understanding the various mechanical components that are integral to different types of drone systems. This involves a detailed comparison of these components with those found in other drone systems, highlighting the similarities and differences. By doing so, we can gain a deeper insight into how these systems operate and what makes each unique in its own right. If you want to repair drone systems that start and close, you definitely need to intervene in the body at least once. You need to check all the moving parts in the landing gear here. After this drone came back from the accident, it has been repaired, and as you can see here, there has been some mechanical friction. If the user doesn't request the replacement of this part, it's not a deformation that will affect your flight. The reason this drone crashed is mainly due to an electronic and possibly a software error. This will be checked. Propeller control is also very important in a drone. If your propellers have been damaged in an accident, after a flight, you definitely need to replace them. If there's any deformation on them, you should also replace them to improve flight performance.